What I did find incredibly powerful in this section of the film is that they spoke to a few people who used to work in the industry.
Oh.
So they had
Former slaughterhouse workers and former butchers.
Yes, and farmers.
And farmers.
And hearing it from them just adds a next level of credibility to the films. Just like we were saying, having the older experts like T. Colin Campbell and Dr. Esselstyn, and even when they bring in Dr. Barnard and
or
Dr.
Gregor
Greger
or Dr. McDougall.
We need those voices, and equally we need these kind of voices for the ethics coming from former workers in the industry.
That's right. So you had Harold Brown, a former farmer who was featured in a documentary film called Peaceable Kingdom by Tribe of Heart.
Yeah.
That's one of our favourite documentaries from
Yes.
2004. And they also had, I was thinking, that former slaughterhouse worker, the story he told about the calf.
Wow. Okay, so was it a calf? I thought it was a pig.
No, I
it was
heard
a calf. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. So this guy, he was actually employed to kill animals because, of course, there's so many different roles in a slaughterhouse. They're not all
On the kill floor.
But this particular guy that they used in the film H.O.P.E. was on the kill floor. And so his job at one stage was to bolt gun the calves in the head. And he had the gun and he put it to the head of one of the male calves. And this calf, he said, was looking back at me and a tear rolled down the calf's cheek. And it was at that point that it just hit his heart and he couldn't do it. And he fired the gun in another direction and he went to his boss and he said, I can't do this. He gave him the gun and said, give me my papers to resign.
Yep. Very
was just
powerful,
enough for him.
Very powerful. And as he was retelling that story, it really looked like it haunted him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all of these people that they spoke to in the later part of the film, they told many stories and really gave a lot of detail. And I just felt like they were speaking from such a deep place.
They were. Like animal rights activists, weren't they?
Yes, but even deeper because they had been in it. They did it. That was their job, their livelihood. They were right in the thick of it. And when you hear that message from someone like that that's had that experience, there's no vegan propaganda. There's no ulterior motive. This is the guy who slits the throats or shoots the animal in their head,
Yes.
telling you, I can't do it, and you couldn't do it, and it's terrible. They don't go willingly.
No,
they were giving those details.
That was another thing they focused on. So they said the animals are always forced onto slaughterhouse trucks and into the slaughterhouse, and it's always brutal. So they use electric cattle prods and they beat the animals with paddles and what have you, anything that they can do to force the animals to get on the trucks and to get into the slaughterhouse.
And he said that we will he said we will kick the bulls in the bulls.
Yes.
That's his words.
We'll
and
kick
we
the
will,
dairy cows in the udders.
In the udders. It's always brutal. It's always, it's violent.
They mentioned that they will twist the nose ring of some of the cattle
bulls.
raised for beef 180 degrees.
Yes.
I mean, excruciating pain. That's how little they want to die.
Yeah.
I mean...
So that, they don't go willingly to their death.
No.
They are aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
And
they also had an animal behavioural scientist on there.
Yeah.
I've heard of this guy before. I think his name's Dr. Mark Beckhoff. I think that's his name. Anyway, he was saying that, we have a vast body of science that tell us that animals have deep, rich and emotional lives. He also said, or it was said in the film, that Charles Darwin said the differences among species are shades of grey, not black and white.
that was fascinating. I love that, and I want to look
Meaning
that
that
up.
anything that we experience as human animals is
experience
experienced in different degrees in other species.
Yes. Yeah. That is fascinating. Fascinating.
Cows have community, they have social structure, they babysit for one another, they mourn, they have friendships. Chickens are empathetic. Animals have strong and subjective lives. They feel joy and pleasure. And there was a great juxtaposition, I felt, in the film of how the animals in confinement were compared to how they are when they're not in confinement and they're living their natural lives.
Yeah. There was a beautiful scene of a goat playing with a big red plastic ball. This goat was hilarious. He was jumping from the table to the ground, playing with the ball by himself. He was just totally obsessed and occupied with this big ball. And at one point, he was on his hind legs and he was like throwing his front legs up in the air, like giving a little shout out to the ball.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And I have to say that I find those parts of the film and of other documentaries that we've watched, I find those parts to be the most depressing.
Me too.
If I'm going to cry, which I rarely do anymore, it's usually at those parts because that's when you see, geez, they are real beings that are aware and they know what's going on, and it makes it worse. I wish they didn't know. I wish they didn't feel so much. I wish they weren't so intelligent. I wish that they didn't know and feel what we do to them to such a degree that we do and that they do.
Yeah, we rob them of so much. That's what the imagery, that footage shows when they're enjoying themselves and they're showing.